Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We look forward to providing you with some insights of the New York release for application portfolio management, as well as highlight some of the application portfolio management practices and the ServiceNow capabilities. So I'm going to jump right in here and go through this kind of agenda, interjections, kind of an overview, highlight some practices, highlight what's new in ServiceNow's New York release, jump into product demonstration, and then follow it up with question and answers. So as Sean mentioned, just a brief introduction to Results Positive. We've been helping organizations, large organizations, small organizations over the last 15 years with their business technology needs. And we really specialize in creating business technology solutions that are right-sized and really focused on business outcomes and really driving to those positive results. In terms of our core focus areas, technology business management has kind of been our sweet spot around application portfolio management, project portfolio management, and then the application life cycle. We do that through our various service offerings around advisory services, roadmap services, implementation, and actually application development, as well as application strategy, application rationalization. So we really appreciate everyone's time today and look forward to providing you with an overview. So typically what we see when it comes to application portfolio management, there's different roles in the organization that are consumers of the data. And at a high level, there's two core groups, if you will, that are looking at application portfolio management. From a strategic perspective, you got your overall leaders, your enterprise architects. They're trying to really assess your application portfolio in terms of, is it mapping, is it supporting all of our business strategies and capabilities? Where should we continue to invest? Where should we de-invest? Do we actually have a good view of the roadmaps, as well as do we understand our overall total cost of ownership? And then we have operations. They like to use some of the same information to actually support the day-to-day operations. So they want to make sure that they're understanding what are the service desk requests and incidents coming in against the various applications in the portfolio. Want to be able to manage the change requests going in against those applications. Managing the configurations item, the configuration management database, the associated assets. Also, you want to start looking at discovery and service mapping so you can, in a more proactive fashion, respond to incidents or events that are popping up and managing your applications. With the ServiceNow platform, it supports all these different role-based users, and it supports all their different needs that they're looking for, all on the same platform. And so that's really powerful, and we'll kind of highlight that as we go through the overview. So first, I just wanted to highlight the major new capabilities with the New York release. So with the New York release, they've introduced the information portfolio, really looking at all the different data domains and the associated, say, databases, and catalogs that you get managing the information. So this helps the app portfolio management solution with ServiceNow more aligned to the TOGAF methodology that enterprise architects are typically looking at. So they're on that journey to continue to align to the TOGAF methodology, but at the same time, they are growing the app portfolio management solution to really support organizations that are managing all of their ITSM capabilities, managing their project portfolio, managing their overall application rationalization activities. So you'll see that continue to grow over time. Previously, prior to New York, you were able to manage business capabilities, which has been renamed to the business portfolio, be able to manage that map, be able to assist with some of your business planning, trying to assess your capabilities, see if you have any major gaps there from an application perspective or even from a process and a people perspective. So you can really identify where you need to invest, and those investments would funnel over into your project portfolio management capabilities. The core here, what we're talking about is being able to manage that inventory of applications, but more appropriately analyze those applications and determine where you can actually reduce some of the redundancy that you have in your application portfolio today, and really start to get a visibility into the overall total cost of ownership. And then you can look at your applications and see the underlying technologies, look at the roadmap there, see the end of life of those various technologies. And that's also another great way to identify those investment projects to do an upgrade, to do a refresh, to purchase a new application or new technology. So that's kind of a high-level summary of the ServiceNow application portfolio management capabilities. As I mentioned, there's just tons of value and additional benefits for organizations using the ServiceNow platform. So you start to get this whole 360-degree view of what's going on with your application. So not only looking at your inventory of applications, but now I'm able to make sure that the operations teams are supporting all the changes with those applications. You can start tying in some of your governance and risk and compliance activities, and how does that align to your applications, right? Which applications are going to require updates based upon various compliance initiatives. Maybe it be a PCI compliance. There's other compliance out there from a security perspective. And you'll be able to manage and maintain and identify which applications need to have updates just from a security perspective. We talked a little bit about looking at how the application you might need to continue to invest. So there'll be an upgrade, investment, or enhancement. You can do that through your project portfolio management. And then if you're looking at from a software perspective, you can utilize the software asset management solution to really start looking at entitlements and usage of your application. So kind of end-to-end visibility and managing your applications on the ServiceNow platform. And then you have the advantage of not having all the different integrations that you typically do if you're using more of a point solution approach. One thing I'd also like to kind of highlight is kind of inventory. A lot of times organizations ask us where do they start in building their overall application portfolio and their inventory. So it's typically two different approaches. A lot of times for organizations just going down their application transformation initiative, typically you would do both. So the top down is really where you're looking at going out and assessing with the organization through interviews to various business unit leads, business owners, application owners, and either doing surveys, but also doing those interviews. It's interesting, every time we do that, we identify some other applications are being used in the organization that, say, IT wasn't aware of, or other business units weren't aware of. And then you actually want to do the automated discovery-focused discovery of your applications. So you'll want to do that and discover those applications. You can typically start off by service mapping. That's a great capability within ServiceNow. So you can identify your URL and start mapping those apps to the underlying technology. There's the asset management, and then tying that into your CMDB. So both approaches are typically needed. Found many opportunities where discoveries occurred, and then you still needed to have the manual interviews and surveys to identify some of those other solutions that are being used today. You know, as an example, there might be a lot of access. Databases are being used for various application functions, but maybe that capability is also available on another platform. And that way you can streamline those disparate applications into a common platform. This slide here is to kind of highlight the different data sources and how it kind of all ties together. So we talked a little bit about discovery and your CMDB and your CI inventory. So that can go directly into APM. And so one thing, just to let everybody know, that actual application inventory is a CI within your CMDB. So it just highlights that even organizations that don't have the app portfolio management solution can have that base inventory in the system. Typically, then you'd want to do service mapping to tie in the dependencies and the relationships, and that would further enhance your inventory and be able to kind of get that map, if you will, of your applications. Next, you can manage your technologies and your software models using the software asset management. So you can kind of look at those entitlements and how you've deployed those software entitlements. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the demo and kind of go through a few different use cases here using the ServiceNow solution. So there's a few out-of-the-box dashboards. Here's a great way to get a view into your application landscape. You can see here I can slice and dice the data and view that dynamically. So it's a great way to get visibility into your landscape of applications. Not only are we looking at that by user base, so we see which ones are the high use where we need to probably invest more in maintaining and supporting those applications. Here we can look at how many different vendors and suppliers do we have for our different applications. Here we can look at aging of those applications as well. So that's one view that we can look at here out of the box. I can start doing some analysis on your application portfolio as well. So you can slice and dice that information based on any application attribute that you might have in the system today. So it gives you a good bird's eye view of what's going on. The other thing to highlight here is you've got this demands and projects by capability and by application. So as we mentioned, within the ServiceNow platform, you can also manage your project portfolio. And so these items are items that have been submitted as a way to look at a business case for adding a new capability, projects to roll out those new capabilities, or those projects to roll out new applications or do those upgrades. Then there's some various dashboards here, say from an enterprise architect perspective. So they want to look at those various rationalization opportunities that they have currently in flight. Say, look at some of those applications that are currently not in the cloud as part of their digital transformation. And then they're able to start seeing some of those capability gaps, monitors over time. Here you're able to see kind of what the spend is across your different categorization of applications. So you can see the demand coming in, you can see the projects that are currently being managed. So it gives you a good view of what's going on as you're assessing your portfolio and determining where to invest. So a lot of different ways to manage the data in ServiceNow, those of you that might not be familiar. So here you can look at actually setting up a Kanban board or a visual task board to kind of manage the demands. So you're looking at new solutions based on your application rationalization. So here you might be looking at replacing some of your CRM solutions, enhancing your digital experience. You can kind of see where that is in the overall process of managing it through demand to get an actually approved project through the process. So a great interactive way to manage the work through the life cycle. So I'm going to go back here and jump into a few use cases here within ServiceNow's app portfolio management. So first of all, I want to come in and kind of look at the capabilities and assess our capabilities and determine where we might have gaps, determine where we need to invest. So as you see here, I come in and look at the hierarchical capability map, so I can identify the different capabilities that are required to run our business, what makes us unique. And then I can look at each one of these capabilities. These capabilities can be scored through a survey. So I can kind of look at my overall scoring, and then I can then see what our overall score was across the people, process, and technology perspective. I can also then see if we have any projects or proposed projects and investments that we're currently looking at investing in. And so I can kind of view that information here across each one of these different capabilities. I can then also look at the different business applications or the services that are supporting those different capabilities. So as you tie in your inventory, you can start to kind of view what's going on with these capabilities and determining where you want to invest. You can see here I can change that by each fiscal year, and I can do those surveys each fiscal year and determine which gaps we want to try and fill. So I can also look at things from a technology risk perspective, see where we have risks across the organization. And that can kind of help give me some ideas of where those risks are and where we might want to invest as well. So what's nice here, since it's all on a single platform, as I'm looking at these different capabilities and I'm understanding that I got a good gap, we definitely want to increase the overall score here. I could look at that and say, let's go and create a demand or a program to address this particular capability of generating new products for the organization. So one click here, I could go create demand to do that upgrade or to really enhance that business capability. So that's how you can manage your capabilities, plan and assess them from a survey perspective each fiscal year. Look at those gaps and identify where you want to invest. So next I could come over here and look at things from an overall application perspective and start doing some application rationalization. So I can identify what's my current assessment period. I can then do some various filtering. So some great out-of-the-box ability to look at that application score or TCO. You'll see here the number of incidents because we're all on the same platform that you're managing all of your service management or customer satisfaction scores or various other costs here as well. You can see down below here that I can have a really kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on with my application by category. So I can see the number of applications by category. I've got a lot of great information here at my fingertips. So I can look at some cost associated with this. I can see my total cost of ownership across the different applications here. So that's kind of a roll-up across each category. I then want to go in and look at a specific category and identify, do we have some overlaps? What is the overall score? What some of the gaps we might have in some of these applications? So I can then look at our current plan here of sustaining, investing, and replacing our applications. So I can see which application that it's relating to. And then over here, I can see that additional scoring and analysis information that was highlighted before. So this is a great way to be able to manage those applications and be able to rationalize them and determining where you need to invest going forward. So the other core capability here is to come in and manage your overall technology portfolio. So we see a lot of customers getting a significant value here as you're starting to look at the life cycle of your different supporting technologies. So in this case here, we're looking at a specific application. We're seeing various services that might be supporting that application. And then we're seeing various technologies, in this case, software models supporting these applications. If we kind of look at things from a legend perspective, we can kind of see the state of those technologies from pre-release all the way to end of support, end of life for those particular items. At the same time, we're able to see the overall risk that's been assessed on those particular technologies. As we're looking at this here, and we're actually identifying that we have some end of life coming up here shortly, we can do the same thing, or we can create a demand or create a project to actually do that upgrade, to do that refresh. So it gives you that type of visibility here in managing your overall technology portfolio. I can look at different sets of risks or even those that have been unassessed and kind of view these different applications. Then we can go in and make sure that we do perform the assessments so that we can start assessing those and looking at the high risk technologies where we need to do our planning. So a lot of capabilities here within the solution to support managing your application portfolio. So the next thing I wanted to kind of do is come over here and look at some of your business applications. So here I can see some of the different business applications here, and this is just a core list of business application. So I could come in and look at a specific application itself. So this is the application entity. As we see here, it is a business application CI class as part of the CMDB. So I can see here the out-of-the-box attributes of managing my application. You can configure and add in additional attributes. As mentioned before, since it's tied here to as part of the CMDB, I can see all the different related items tied to this application. So I can view that information here as well. I can also then start to look at my application roadmap. So what are we investing in terms of this application? What's been proposed? What are the current projects that we're working on for this particular application? So in this case, we don't have anything here, but we could see the overall roadmap associated with this particular application. So it gives you that kind of view as you are planning and managing that application. You could jump in and look at the TCO, this particular application as well. So it kind of gives you that core ability to manage the application. Those of you that are doing asset management or even contract management on the platform, that information is available to be included here as well. So you can see here some of the high-level information about the contract, the end date here, who are the various process owners, both on the business side as well as the application side. That way you can set up various surveys to be sent out to do that ongoing audit capability. Next, if you wanted to look at various compliance initiatives, so you're seeing some items here out of the box. Typically, we see organizations putting in PCI compliance or tying it into the governance, risk, and compliance capability. So that way you can have a bird's eye view list in your dashboard page to see which particular applications need to be updated based upon a new compliance or regulatory requirement that just come down from whichever regulatory entity that is from the government or whether that's from your specific industry. So that's how I can kind of manage and go into the different components here from an application perspective. So one thing that we'll highlight here too is just all the different types of indicators. You saw some of those as we were doing the application rationalization. So you've got these various indicators out of the box, and when you run your surveys, you can have this run, do its audit, do the calculations here for you across the platform, so that you can start to really track and understand the results of these various indicators. So the application TCO is an indicator. It's pulling information across the application. So it's pulling in the number of incidents, the number of changes, the hours associated with that. Based on that, right, it's coming up and giving you an overall score, as well as coming up with an overall cost from an overall application TCO perspective. You can track your CSAT scores here again based upon the different applications that you want to manage. There's a great way to come in and actually do certifications. So one of the most important things when you're managing your application portfolio is what's the accuracy of the data. Have we been able to validate that on this application? And so you can run these audits, can be run and scheduled, and that way you can confirm that everything's being updated appropriately. You can see here I've got some notifications here that some business capabilities aren't tied to some applications. So you get this type of data anomaly notification, so you can make sure that your portfolio is being managed and maintained. So I'm going to it's kind of a high-level view of what I wanted to highlight for the demo today. Actually, it just reminded me the one thing I wanted to highlight that was new is the information portfolio. So this is new here in the New York release. And so this helps tie it more to TOGAF. So you've got these data elements now you can manage. I got the different entities here to manage, in this case, employee data or the different databases. So that's the new capability, and that will continue to grow and expand as the product is updated with the next upcoming releases. So in terms of New York, what's new, this is the major capabilities here, that what's new in terms of the information portfolio. So next I wanted to kind of address the common questions that customers have about where do I start, what are the common starting points around application portfolio management. So we see 4 key areas that organizations start with. So one is coming up with an overall strategy and roadmap. So that's looking at it from a strategic perspective. Organizations are really trying to establish an overall practice around their application roadmap and really managing that portfolio and rationalization. As a part of doing that, sometimes organizations already have a strategy. They just really need to make sure that they've actually got an inventory of their applications. And so that's where we would come in and do that top-down and bottom-up inventory. One thing that's really critical there is establishing your overall framework. So typically, there's different data elements, different categorizations of applications you'd want to do as part of different industries. So you want to establish that framework so that when you're doing the discovery, you're capturing those attributes so that you can slice and dice your application based upon those different functions, different capabilities, and different categories. Some organizations already have an inventory there because it's part of the CMDB. Feel that they have a strategy in place, and they're just looking to implement the app portfolio management capabilities. So that's where we would come in and assist with the implementation. There's be some configuration to set up to add some of those additional data attributes with your capabilities, with your applications. As appropriate, that might also include a small implementation of PPM so that you can easily set up those demands and projects so that you can identify what you're going to fund once you see the results of your current surveys. Part of that implementation also includes setting up the surveys, setting up the audits so that those are going on a periodic basis, so you can make sure once you've implemented, you're continually updating and validating the accuracy of your data. And then lastly, training. This could be as part of an overall program. Some organizations are just needing some advisory services, and we help them with their APM setup and advisory services. So that's a way that we help customers. Also, we help customers with the training based upon a role. So whether it be an app portfolio manager, however they're going to do the rationalization, or might that be a member of the operations team that actually need to manage the applications. So those are the common starting points that we see for organizations. We're to look at that strategic starting point around application strategy and roadmap. So that's where we'd come up with an overall strategy. From there, we would look at doing that top-down, bottom-up inventory. And prior to doing that, you'll want to set up that overall framework. Then from there, we can help with that initial set of analysis and rationalization, so that it can kind of have that first set of recommendations. From there, the outcome here is an overall roadmap, your application roadmap, your technology roadmap, so that you know where you're going to invest in over the next 2, 3, 5 years, your application portfolio. We do have a rapid start implementation packages, those customers that are looking just to implement the ServiceNow solution and get that up and running so they can start managing their application portfolio. So we can do that. We have different packages here, so you can see bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. We also have the advisory services as well. Next is highlighting that we have the training services. So this is really more training on how your solution has been configured, and then how those users would utilize the application for their particular role in the application portfolio management process. So definitely can have multiple starting points. As I alluded to before, you might just be looking for advisory services, you might be looking to actually discover and get access to your inventory, might be doing that overall strategy and roadmap followed by inventory, might just be a rapid start implementation, or just looking at those advisory guided setup services.